Good morning. My name is Jenny Deal, and I am the business lead for Enterprise Digital Solutions for SAIC. I'm here today with Mr. Bob Ritchie, who is our Chief Technology Officer, and I'm also here with Mr. Jose J.R. Rivera, who is our lead for the Air Force Cloud One program. Today, we're going to get their keen insight onto cloud computing and cloud management, and we're also going to talk about what SAIC is doing in the sense for cloud government, and also how we are securely taking tactical cloud to the tactical edge. We're also going to talk a little bit about where we're going as a company with our future technologies in cloud computing. And so with that, I will turn this over to Mr. Bob Ritchie and just ask you, can you explain how we do secure cloud computing? And then we also talk about how it enables your mission, and then in remote and in on-premise, or excuse me, in cloud and then remote environments, and then also talk about data sovereignty and security and where we're going with that, and where we've gone today and where we're going with that in the future.
Sure thing. Thanks, Jenny. So let me start off by saying one of the key contrasts of cloud versus the historical or legacy data center architecture is our ability to do software-defined everything. And that's a key component to how we deliver secure outcomes in the cloud, whether it's CONUS Cloud, OCONUS Cloud, or down to the tactical edge. In that respect, it's important to also pay attention to the difference between just simply delivering a cloud solution or a cloud-based solution and a secure cloud solution. So the overlap in the security that's needed to drive tactical mission outcomes for our warfighters and for even federal civilian agencies that need that secure mission outcome delivery. So how we're leveraging our partnerships with our cloud providers, specifically Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle, and Google, is to leverage as much as possible the commodities that those hyperscalers provide to us and focus in on the aspects of the mission set that are yet to be fully commoditized or fully being able to deliver at an economy of scale. And so we're able to push as much as we can into the commodities, so secure landing zones of architecture, software-defined networking, micro-segmentation of workloads, and take that capability as software-defined infrastructure and deploy that into the hyperscalers. And then as well, the same for wide area networking, and take that capability and deploy it all the way down to the tactical edge and take advantage of the hyperscalers' capabilities to deploy that same sort of footprint in tactical edge and leverage that same software-defined infrastructure in both places. It allows us to really focus in on that mission impact of the software-defined capabilities. So instead of thinking about, now I've got to procure a bunch of hardware, I've got to worry about hardware refresh cycles, I've got to worry about putting people down range to field and maintain that hardware, then start to think about software as an afterthought, we're able to instead flip that paradigm, focus on software-defined mission outcomes, and deliver true CI/CD capability, true continuous monitoring to lead to rapid and continuous ATOs of mission capability to deliver at mission need. And so now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague JR here to talk a little bit more about mission need and how we're able to deliver that.
Well, thank you, Bob. So I'm very excited on the fact that as you listen to Bob, he's talking about incredible technology and then the mission, right? Mm-hmm. That is the partnership that we bring to the fight. A incredible understanding of the technology and how it applies to the mission. Yeah. When it comes over to my side, as we operate Cloud One, we start with that. We always start with a mission in mind. It's never about technology, it's about the mission to our warfighters at the edge and how we can enable them to take care of our nation's business, right? Yeah. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples I'm very excited about. The CBC2 program that we're working with the Air Force, we manage in close cooperation with the PMO over at Cloud One and the PMO and CBC2 to extend the capabilities of cloud to the edge with one of our CSPs. It took some time to sit down, look at the requirements, and what was the right solution for the warfighter. Not to shoe in technology, but start with the end in mind, and we've been very successful at rolling that out. And the mobility forces, I'm very happy to tell you that all the mission planning in AMC, in the Air Force Mobility Forces, is hosted on the cloud. Yep. And the customer has given us an incredible testimonial of how exciting it is for them to bring the activity to the cloud, enhance mission effectiveness, and get some incredible cost optimizations that they did not have before. These are just two examples of what we're doing, and we're very excited to continue to bring missions on board to expand on our footprint and help the warfighter.
Well, and you touched on optimization a little bit there. There's multiple ways you can optimize, right? So cost optimization is one aspect, mission optimization, so more sorties generated, more mission effective, increasing mission effectiveness, so there's a lot of different aspects of optimization, and it really is what the customer values is what's important to us, and that cloud really contributes to making that better, right, in the future. So that's just one aspect of Cloud One and cloud computing. And I mean, but we don't just do Cloud One. We work in both the commercial sector and in the government sector, DoD sector. So do you want to touch a little bit more on that and on governance?
Absolutely. So as Jenny pointed out, and JR was alluding to, we're about mission first and then bringing the right tool for the right problem set. So that's both from a technology standpoint and a governance standpoint. And I'm gonna focus on technology and then pass it to JR to really highlight the kind of tailorable governance side of it. But from a technology standpoint, we're able to provide rapid access to the right tools for the right problem set, and that's a key component of both the Cloud One program, but then truly all of SAIC's cloud strategy and how we partner with the federal government and even with commercial agencies, and in how we deliver mission and business impacting solutions at the speed of need. And what I mean by that is it's not a one size fits all world. It might look great on paper to think of a homogeneous technology architecture, so to speak, of I'm going to set this high bar of, say, Kubernetes and containers and say that's the only, the bar to get to rapid and continuous ATO. You have to get there. But that's not a realistic outcome that we've experienced across federal government, DoD, intel community, and federal civilian. Because the enterprise is so vast and there are so many technology partners at play that are at just different parts of their journey in terms of moving to containers, container orchestration, or even in the sense of moving to 12-factor apps or cloud native computing foundations definitions of scalable apps. And so what we have done, and in partnership specifically with the Air Force and Cloud One, to bring this to DoD first as almost a proving ground that's now starting to resonate with Treasury in the recent award of T-Cloud, and then on the IC side with C2E and SIM, is a architecture that is composable and it's federated such that a mission system can have its own risk aperture on how fast they need to move and what type of monitoring they need in place and what technologies they want to, in terms of setting that bar for entry, that barrier for entry. That dovetails really nicely into our governance model that touches on some of the optimization as well as kind of that inheritable cloud security model. So I'll pass it over to JR to talk a little bit more about that governance.
Well, thank you. So when I was active duty, right, I would imagine a world that we would enhance the mission and then that we can save money, right? That was like a unicorn. Well, that future is here right now with our customers, right? Mm-hmm. So we're enhancing the mission with incredible technology applied with mission focus, but then on the cost optimization side, we have this incredible program that we flight follow the government spending on each one of their applications, and we have a group of people that their only job in life is to advise our customer on how to optimize their spending so they can use that money and spend it somewhere else.
Like a cloud concierge?
Like a cloud concierge.
Yeah.
So every month we look at that. We have incredible dashboards available to the customer that they can look at their spend every single day.
Yep.
So the transparency in the operation is incredible, and then we advise them as their trusted advisors on strategies for them to reduce their spend. Yeah. So at the end of the year, they have more resources to apply to the mission.
Yeah.
And we do all this without sacrificing the mission, which is the fantastic thing,
yeah.
right? The mission gets better, and on the cost side, there's cost avoidance that the government can spend that money elsewhere, and we all know how important that is.
Well, and you touched on it, but we're not just an Air Force cloud. The Cloud One is Air Force, specifically is Air Force funded, the infrastructure and the capability, but we support customers throughout the entire DoD. So we do mission sets from, IM for the Air Force all the way through, you touched on it before, special operations to mobility Air Force programs. I mean, other DoD entities and combatant commands. So we're really across the whole aperture of DoD, specifically with Cloud One. But there's a lot of different customers that we can support, and it's flexible and architectural enough. Is that a word?
Yeah. No. I mean, and you kind of hit on it. It's the principle at the core of Cloud One was around microsegmentation, starting with some of the principles that later evolved to be kind of labeled as the pillars of zero trust. But Cloud One kind of predated that even, but it made it easy for Cloud One as soon as 800-207 came out from NIST Cloud One came out almost a month later with a paper that aligned exactly how every one of those pillars had been met. And in fact, DoD, CIO, and CISO leadership testified to Senate Armed Services Committee of the same effect, that Cloud One is a complete implementation of the pillars of Zero Trust. And what that gives us is that flexibility. So the ability in a single, a massively hyperscaled multi-cloud environment for every mission system owner to have the kind of insular security of feeling like they're Cloud One's one and only one customer. They know that no other tenant of Cloud One can impact their security boundary, nothing that anyone else introduces, and that allows their ISO and their risk aperture to be tailored completely for them and go as fast or as slow as they need to at their risk aperture level. And to your point, I mean, there are even Corps of Engineers mission systems. Business intelligence for Corps of Engineers is hosted in Cloud One. And so that's a unique DoD and civil service kind of overlap that exists in the ecosystem. There's lots of Fourth Estate and DoD adjacent communities, combatant commands that are hosted in Cloud One. And then there's a whole nother layer of software factories that take residence in Cloud One to inherit as many controls as they can for Cloud One, and then provide additional inheritable controls. So we look at Bespin from the BES mobile app workforce is able to rapidly onboard systems into the Bespin community. As JR mentioned, CBC2 has been able, in the past 10 months alone, bring 10, 12 systems online in the command and control space, all the way up through secret and secret releasable. And even the idea of secret releasable is only empowered in the cloud by that Zero Trust networking architecture principle. And so that foundation laid the groundwork and is now translating over. While I mentioned T-Cloud earlier, T-Cloud's not leveraging Cloud One, but they are leveraging the exact same governance model, the federation, and the Zero Trust networking architecture to drive the same outcomes across the Department of the Treasury.
So can you describe a little bit about how SAIC's secure cloud capabilities differ from other cloud capabilities out there? And maybe talk a little bit about security as well. I mean, that's one aspect that's really important to the government and the Air Force and the military is security, because we need secure data. We don't need to share that with other people. And so can you talk to that?
So I'd say at its foundational layer, SAC's approach to secure cloud is first and foremost a multi-cloud approach, meaning we are not building specific locked-in solutions for any one cloud provider. That kind of steers us directionally towards more infrastructures, open source infrastructure as code technologies. I know recently with HashiCorp changing the licensing around Terraform, and that's okay. That's a corporation that happens over time for any corporation-backed OSS. And we're able to pivot quickly because of the infrastructure as code choices and the abstraction choices we've made to not put all eggs in any one basket, including, for example, a HashiCorp. On the other side, we're able to abstract away a lot of the toil that comes with managing a heterogeneous cloud environment. So back to all the way up to governance and a FinOps model, aggregating that across all clouds. And that's kind of a barrier for entry, if you will, if you're going to be running multi-cloud, to be able to provide that view. And the cost optimizations are really unique, so I'll let JR talk a little bit about that, of how you do cost optimization across cloud. But to have this true continuous RMF, continuous monitoring, and rapid and continuous ATO posture across cloud is very challenging and very complicated if you're thinking of each cloud provider you bring on as a bolt-on. So designing that from scratch is something that's very different from the SAC's approach to others in the space, is how do we have that Zero Trust networking architecture be ubiquitous across cloud providers? It allows us to rapidly add new cloud providers as they emerge. I'll touch on JR, who probably has a good anecdote about adding cloud providers to Cloud One. But it allows us to take that journey because it's designed to be extensible. And it also gives us that insular protection from if any one cloud provider were to drop out. Say there's a breach or a known vulnerability that happens in a cloud provider, and that's probably pretty topical in the news since that happens of late. We can make decisions, risk-based decisions, to completely move out of any one cloud provider and move over without sacrificing inheritable controls to move from cloud to cloud. And that is a really, really big resiliency and survivability and anti-fragility standpoint of our approach.
And it's incredible how you take this very complex issue, very important issue, right? It's an operational imperative. Security is an operational imperative in our military. And then we couple it with business practices that deliver ease of use to our customer. So all of a sudden, for the sake of security, we're not sacrificing the customer experience. That continuous ATO that we're talking about, the fact that we're sensitive to that imperative, but we're also sensitive to the need of our customer to use our systems and deploy them. So that to me that right there, that nexus right there, shows you the thought leadership that we have, the operational maturity, and then you couple it with my last point, which is, we're fiscally responsible. So we know that the world, I mean, there's other things that you can spend money on, and that's the great capability that we bring to the fight.
Yeah.
Again, thought leadership, operationally focused, thinking on the mission, and then also taking care of the resources for the government.
Well, and we talked about our understanding, SAIC's understanding of, what's important, what the customer values, what's important to them, what, mission effectiveness, security, optimization, fiscal responsibility, and then enhanced capability. Where are we going in the future for cloud? What is SAIC and in that thought leadership role? Where are we going for the future? And I'll turn that to Bob first.
Sure, yeah. So I guess the cliche way of saying it is moving up the stack. So we've kind of mastered the ability to provide secure and ease of use multi-cloud and zero trust networking architecture and micro-segmentation. The next layer of integration we're tackling is that data layer. So how do we move away from a legacy net-centric security topology and even app-centric portfolio management and move into a data-centric security model and even a data-centric portfolio, meaning no longer am I thinking of my enterprise as a collection of apps, and I'm more thinking of my enterprise as a data ecosystem where mission impactful experiences exist, both events that are data emitters and data consumers, and then digital experiences that ride on that data fabric to deliver mission outcome. And so that's where we're focused on moving forward, is how do you deliver data centricity and interoperability. And when I touched on earlier, the microsegmentation that we're able to extend into the secret releasable enclave is where we see the most mission impact coming in the future, of being able to extend data-centric security into that mission coalition partner in ecosystem and have true interoperation, so that when we are deterring a threat, or we, heaven forbid, are going into a live fire actual engagement, we're able to do so as a coalition and not as an isolated or sneaker-netted warfighting capability. And really that power of all of us are better together, in my true belief, is a key part of how we have a actual deterrent capability from ever having to evolve into a kinetic exercise.
JR, do you want to talk about mission systems that we're supporting? So do you want to touch on JADC2 or AOC or ABMS, any of those mission systems that Cloud One is looking at today to support in the future?
So Cloud One, I'm incredibly excited to tell you that right now we're bringing Google, we're bringing it all the way to IL5, so we're going to have a full suite of CSPs available to our customers. So this is not, as Bob said, this is not a cookie cutter type of operation.
Yeah.
We look at the customer, we analyze what they're doing, and we provide expert advice to maximize their investment, both in the operational realm and on the resources side.
Yeah.
So we do that complete package. When we do migration as a service, literally you come in through the front door, from the moment you step in, we become your advisor on how you can maximize your mission, which is very, very important. Some places you go and there's a particular service that's very rigid. We're not like that. Again, we start with a mission and then we work our way back to the solution, right? Very, very important on that. So we provide services to AFSOC. We provide services to the mobility world in the Air Force, to Transcom. We run a lot of applications that do logistics support for the Air Force right now. We also provide a lot of support. For example, the Air Force portal resides in Cloud One. So every single day, close to 800,000 folks in the Air Force get to look at what Cloud One provides when they log onto their computer, and we're very proud of that. Now, in the future, the same way that we're agile in the way we look at technology and we develop solutions, that's the same approach we take in program management. For example, we sit down with our customers and we're constantly asking them what's in their mind. How can we make this better? And then we design programs around that, sort of sprints, but on the program management side. Our latest result on that, with one of our chief solution architects, Mr. Roger Moon, based on their input, we've designed 10 technical exchange meetings with a customer. We all come together and we showcase them future capability improvement to Cloud One, because we listen We listen to what they're trying to tell us, and we're constantly doing that, whether it's in the creation of new technology to implement or implementing the technology in the programs. We're constantly looking at that demand signal to bring value to the customer.
No, that's great, and I mean we're looking at everything from mainframe modernization and migration, all the way up to financial operations like Insight, like you were talking about, and dashboards. But we're also looking at other capabilities and enhancements that they're saying that they need. So we're not just going and migrating missions into Cloud One and applications. We're truly leaning forward and finding those things that the government values and our customer values, and figuring out how we're going to invest and we're going to roll those capabilities out to the customer. So, was there anything that you had to add from a technical perspective of where we're going with things? Cloud One?
No, I guess from the JADC2 perspective, and I kind of touched on it before about the data centricity side of it, and it touches on exactly what you're saying. So Cloud One as an enablement is able to be a home or a migration and modernization platform for brownfield systems. And the reality is there are thousands of brownfield systems that connect together, either connect in our warfighters' minds as the connective tissue, or in some networking models, in order to provide the ability to drive mission outcomes. And by modernizing them as they move into Cloud One and adopting some of the automation and infrastructure as code or software-defined infrastructure capabilities of Cloud One as part of that mission, they're also able to kind of crack open that hard shell of finding out what data are they the kind of owners of or the stewards of as a mission system. How can that data feed a broader data fabric and data enterprise of the Air Force, as well as just the broader Department of Defense, which will then enable more greenfield experiential development on what could be shortening a kill chain or a kill web in terms of decision making. And how do we inject AI ML into the future? Well, right now we got to get our arms around that data problem to even start applying automated rules, let alone machine learning, to train models on helping with decision aids. And that's an aspect that we're proud, like JR said, we're very proud to be delivering that capability on CBC2 with the NORAD Northcom mission in joint partnership with the Canadians. And expanding to the other combatant commands, most specifically Indo-PACOM.
Great. So we actually still have some questions from the audience. So,
excellent.
Someone asked, how do I do my mission in a commercial cloud?
How do I do my mission in commercial cloud? Well, I'll take a stab at that. So, from a commercial cloud standpoint, I'm gonna caveat it two ways. Both the Gov Cloud regions of the cloud providers and the, we'll say, traditional commercial cloud regions are connected to commercial internet. So with the commercial regions, the kind of main difference is really around the physical security of the buildings where the cloud is operated out of, the data centers, the raw data centers for those availability zones and regions. So if you're working in that true pure commercial cloud region, executing your mission there, just by nature of the risk of having foreign nationals having hardware access to that, you're really looking at impact level 2 as the highest data sensitivity level you'll be able to host there. As far as how you do it, my recommendation is always, like JR said, understanding the outcomes you're trying to provide, having some expert consultation, or if you have it in-house, design a COA or multiple COAs to select from, and then implementing a software-defined everything. And I'm incredibly biased because I'm a software engineer, but software-defined networking, software-defined infrastructure, even when you're orchestrating pure PaaS and SaaS from the cloud providers, moving to a model where it's purely software-defined is the key to adopting and embracing cloud and not treating it as someone else's data center. Now, if you're thinking in the Gov Cloud world or moving up kind of into higher impact levels, you need secure landing zones. You cannot get to an ability to deliver in the cloud in a secure mode, or even map to, say, on the DoD side, SCCA, the Secure Cloud Computing Architecture. You need those components, and you need to not do that for every mission. It's a huge barrier for entry if you're going to tackle that for every app or every system. And so that's where solutions like Cloud One and its secure landing zones has been so impactful for accelerating ATOs into that space, because they can inherit that secure landing zone, inherit those CI/CD automation tools, inherit the configuration control management tools, and really get to a rapid ATO posture regardless of the technology at play. Sure.
One more question from the audience is, someone says, I have a lot of apps in my enterprise. How do I bring them all to the cloud at once when speed is a virtue?
JR, do you want to talk about migration as a service?
Yeah.
Well,
that's one aspect
So
of it.
that's a very good point. We love lots of apps. We love portfolios.
Yes.
Because a mission system owner comes to us and says, we have this particular mission. How can I do this, JR? So I have an incredible onboarding system where the customer in a concierge type of arrangement, they come in through the door, we sit down with them, we do a big analysis on what their mission is. We look at their applications, we look at their portfolios, we do application analysis up front, and then based on that, we do recommendations on what makes sense for them. Sometimes not all applications need to come to Cloud One, and we're the honest broker, and we tell them that. Oftentimes, then we give them a pathway to success into which they can deliver that capability to their customers. Sure.
Yeah, so I'll just touch on that really quickly before passing it over to Jenny. Is in that portfolio analysis, so migrate the mission and really focusing on that mission aspect. So you have a lot of apps in your enterprise. And even if you don't have the kind of maturity in place right now where they're organized as portfolios, coming to that front door and taking advantage of that concierge service is really impactful, because you're able to take advantage of the expertise that Cloud One brings to bear, or in the case of even outside of DoD, SAIC, big SAIC brings to bear, is the ability to come up with those courses of action. And I'll just say from personal experience, you got a lot of apps, you need to move to cloud fast, maybe a data center's closing. The fastest method I've seen is to identify at that data layer, that core kernel of value to your enterprise, figure out what are the key components of migrating those systems that are the true data stewards of your ecosystem, exposing them as streams and APIs, and then retiring legacy systems. Before I came back to SAC in 2019, I was at Capital One, and we had a near 85% retirement rate as we closed out our data centers in retail direct tech. And that was because we had true portfolio analysis of, if I built this new stream or built this new API and added this feature to our mobile app, I could retire these 10 legacy systems that had been in place for decades before that. And Jenny, back over to you.
No, that's great, and I really appreciate your keen insight today. I think that's all we have for the audience, but thank you for your time and your insight and expertise. We look forward to hearing more in the future.
Our
Thanks,
pleasure.
Jenny.
Thank you.
Thanks.